Probably something I've talked about a lot lately, but the truth is, I've found myself thinking a lot about how to make better use of my time. And it seems as if we get really good, maybe sometimes, at managing money, but then we aren't very good at managing the hours in the day that we have. And so I just been doing my daily routine and trying to read more books and watch TED Talks instead of random YouTube videos about conspiracy theories or doom and gloom on the news. Just kind of trying to mindfully feed myself with more positive things, because when you're meditating on things that are inspiring or meditating on things that are interesting to you instead of things that are maybe more negative or more of a brain rot kind of a thing, it just winds up being a better deal. And then it gets easier as time goes on to build better habits. Anyways, that's been kind of the story of my life this past week. It's just been a really long week, to be honest. I've been on the road for work, and then when I'm on the road for work, I don't have necessarily the time or the ability to do a lot of things if I'm in a hotel room or something like that. And so then I try to kind of catch up on my days off to spend time doing things that I maybe wasn't doing, to have that added discipline to say, you know what, I'm going to make sure I don't fall off the wagon on these things. And it just seems like it's been working. It's been, it's not like it's a revolutionary thing where my life's dramatically different. It's just, a little at a time, you start to realize your habits are starting to be a little bit more healthy. Spending a little more time reading a book, spending a little more time, learning something instead of just mindlessly scrolling. These are things that all add up a little bit. I remember listening to something quite a few years ago, and someone had said, imagine you have someone who just listens to a little bit of something inspirational here and there. They read a page a day and a self-help book, things like that. Nothing really dramatic. It's just maybe someone else doesn't do those things, and then you come and you compare these two people down the road, and it turns out that one of them has a much better life, and you can't really even exactly put into precise terms why that is, but one of them's doing well and the other one isn't, and it's all because of just a few little things that they did. They kind of put them on a different trajectory, and maybe they started to work on themselves in a different way. So don't underestimate the power of small changes made every single day. It's just it's a compounding sort of a deal. Anyways, I think it's also important to give up things, and if you give up things like maybe you skip food for a day, or you skip social media for a day, or whatever it might be, something of that nature, it can all add up to helping you to declutter your life. Every time I have a day off, maybe I try to kind of throw away something I don't need that's just dead clutter, or go to the Goodwill and get rid of a few things. It all just adds up to doing more good than anything else in life. Been getting new artwork and decorating my walls, and trying to make a point to play the games I haven't given a fair shot, and listening to TED Talks and doing the normal routine at work. You know, another thing that I was thinking about was how sometimes we focus on productivity too much. You think, you know, are you spending all of your time being useful? Are you doing things that are extremely beneficial all the time? And the reality is, being super productive all the time is not necessarily going to help you to lead a more productive life, because it's completely possible that you start just trying to fill up all of the time with something, but it's not necessarily a value added sort of a proposition. Imagine if you go to work and you're sitting there in the office and you say, well, I have to be in the office 5 days a week, and I'm going to sit here and do this stuff. Then, are you really doing stuff that's impactful, or are you just doing busy work because you're on contract to be there? Maybe you'd be better off to prioritize what you're working on and, put a lot of effort into things that are really important and put less effort into things that are less important, and then make a point to have more spare time. Maybe we're better off when we spend less time consuming things too, because what happens if I'm not going to the store, I'm not shopping all the time, I'm not eating out all the time, I'm making my coffee at home, I'm just living a simple life? Well, now I get a lot of time back. I get money back that I wouldn't have otherwise had. And is the food in my cupboard less tasty than the food at the restaurant? Or is it possible that I could just cut out a lot of things and, at the end of the day, you don't really even know the difference. So understand the difference between value added and productivity for the sake of appearing productive. Just always making sure you're on the move, always making sure that you're doing something is not necessarily in and of itself an adequate reason for doing what you're doing. Sometimes it's better to do less and do more of the things that actually count. And it's been said that if you feed the demons inside you, they will grow. If you feed the better angels of your nature, they will grow. So always focus on, what are you feeding to your mind? Are you thinking about things, doing things that are inspiring, that edify you spiritually? Or are you spending time on things that are maybe a little bit more toxic, or just kind of corrosive? Maybe that's the word. Corrosive, in the sense that they're not evil, they're just not doing you any favors. Or you can spend time studying things, learning things. Life is meant to be filled with loveliness and things that we believe in, not meditating on other people's demons, or meddling in other people's affairs, or thinking about stuff that really doesn't lead us anywhere. I was thinking about how it's so easy to look at the stock market and look at the news multiple times a day, and the truth is I don't need to. So my goal is to spend less time thinking about it. Yeah, I'm still gonna look. I'm gonna look every day, see what the stock market did, see if I want to make any changes to my investment plan, or check to see if there's any headlines that look like maybe there's something that I should know about. But for the greater part, you don't really have to think about it all the time. It's something where you can spend 10 minutes a day and be probably about as informed as you're gonna be. You don't have to spend hours out of your day scrolling through all of that stuff. And then what does that free up? Frees up a lot of time for catching up on a rerun of Star Trek or something, maybe. But whatever it is, it's going to be more edifying than just being addicted to scrolling. I think a lot of people are really busy too, really busy in the sense that they're doing stuff that they think is important, and not really very busy in the sense that it's all pretty much for nothing. Maybe I spend my evening after work playing games or something, and maybe someone else spends their time after work trying to catch up on projects they didn't have time to do that's, stressing them out or something. But, does it really make a difference how you spend your time? Not really. If one person enjoys their life and the other person doesn't, then the true poverty is to spend your life waiting until some later time when you're going to enjoy it. But if there is any lesson in all of this, it's also the fact that we can't exist as an island. If you learn, if you experience things that are meaningful, if you have things that you deeply enjoy, the reality is, if you don't share it in some way, if you just live your life purely for yourself and you don't pass it on in any way, you don't have any family to share it with, you don't have a community to share it with, well, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. It's kind of for nothing. So it's important to try not to be an island. But at the same time, I also think sometimes it's important to question whether you're really getting value out of people in your life, because there's a difference between spending time and investing in people you really want in your life, and then spending time on people who you don't enjoy. It was Gordon Gekko in that Wall Street movie that said, "Greed is good." And I've always liked that quote, because I agree. Greed is good. Greed for love, greed for happiness, greed for knowledge, greed for truth. To always want to be greedy for the things in life that matter most. Because the truth is, if we don't help other people, if we don't make ourselves part of something greater than ourselves, then maybe our life isn't all that it ought to be. But at the same time, if we live without any knowledge of what's right for ourselves, if we always put everyone else first, and then we sacrifice ourselves for something supposedly greater than ourselves, well, you have nothing to help others with. You have nothing to give value back to the world with if you don't first invest in knowing who you are, in loving yourself, in satisfying your own needs and wants and desires and all of those things. So make a point to be your own best friend and advocate, and that doesn't mean that greed doesn't also lead to a enlightened self-interest, to understand that we are at our best when we're making other people's lives better too. But you can't really make other people's lives better if you don't first shine a light into your own life. So wherever you find yourself, try to shine a light into your life a little bit every day. Do small things that help make your life better, maybe to help make you wiser or kinder or happier, more at peace. That doesn't mean that all of the things in life beyond your control are going to be whisked away. We do all have our worries and our concerns, our frustrations, and those times when we're not entirely certain what to do. But it certainly does make life a bit better when we can spend it being purposeful to do things which add value into our lives. As always, wherever you find yourself, good luck on your adventure. Until next time, thanks so much for watching.